Where's that come from? Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm out here today in the greenhouse. This is actually my third day coming out here and planting beans. Beans, nothing but beans. We got lots of beans going in. Beans are a really great source of protein, and, they're just a fabulous vegetable to go with. They're great for kids to start. They grow really fast. They grow really big. They have a lot to pick and harvest. It's fun for everyone to get involved. So that being said, I've got myself got one of my trays ready, and I've been soaking beans. Now, beans always do a lot better. Hold on, let me put these back so I don't mess up what's going where. Beans always do better when you soak them. So I started them this morning, actually, instead of overnight. You can do them overnight. Works very, very well. Sorry, guys, I'm moving around. Hold on. Beans do better when you soak them. It just kind of gives them a kickstart and gets them more prepared to, I hope that works, sorry, more prepared to grow. I'm not doing so well with this here. I got to put this down. Hold on. Let's get us set up somewhere. Oh, there we go. I didn't realize it was going live so quickly. That's okay. You're seeing the real deal. Here you go. All right. So I've soaked a number of beans, the last 3 days. So I ran out of little tiny bowls to soak them in. So I've been doing them in batches. And not only that, I only have a short amount of time to get out here to get things done in between the baby and everything else. So if you have a lot of things to plant, break it up into small bits. And that's that. So let me take, for example, these are royal burgundies. I'm doing pole beans, bush beans, string beans, you name it, all different kinds of beans. Hard beans that are going to be dried. I'm doing these tender beans that you're going to pick and eat whole. So pretty much any kind of bean I have in the house, that's going in. So these are royal burgundies, bush beans, for instance. Now these were a great deal smaller this morning. They've been soaking maybe 6 hours or so, since 10 a.m. And now they're nice and plump. So that kind of gives them a kickstart and gets them going. Now I've got my trays already prepared, and then I just throw them on the top. Comme ça. Like this. Let me pick you up. There you are. And I'm going to gently push them in. Push them down. Now, a good rule of thumb, if you don't know or don't have instructions on the back of your packages, a good rule of thumb is to plant your seeds about 1.5 times as big as that particular seed is. So in the instance of this bean, I'm probably going 1/2 inch or so. Beans can actually go a little bit further. They grow really nice and vigorously. And you could probably get away with 3/4 inch, and some of the big ones you're pushing down a lot. So the big jumbo limas, I think I got those in yesterday, if I'm not mistaken, and those went down, at least 1.5 times how big that is. So that was a kind of a medium-sized bean. Now I'll show you my mung beans. Mung beans, they're called different things. I have some shows using these things. Maybe I'll hook us up there when after I publish. So these guys are plumped up, but they're really tiny. So I have little 4-cell packs here that I'm working with. Some of you might not even know what that means. Let me show you. So they've got they're a 4-holer, 4 cells. That's what they're called, 4 cells. So I put one in each of those of the royal burgundies. These, for instance, these are little tiny mung beans. Oh, they are much tinier. And I'm going to actually put 2 in each of the cells. So as far apart as possible, I kind of go diagonal in them. I will show you that in 1 second. Should have brought myself a towel out here. I usually am sitting on the ground, but I've been watering all my seedlings, and it's soaking wet in here, and it's just mud. So this is it. This is what I'm doing with the mung beans. Can you see? Yeah. So I'm spacing them out as far as possible, but I'm able to get 8 of them in there. That being said, when they do pop, if I have 2 in each cell and they're starting to get a little bit bigger, I'm going to transplant them. Okay, so either whether you're using them for your yard or whether you're selling them or whatever you're doing, you can start off small in the smaller containers and then move them out of there, and they're pretty good. Beans are pretty hardy. Some plants don't like all that transplanting, beets and radishes, things like that. They like to be direct sown and they don't like to be moved after. But if you're gentle with beans, they are quite resilient. So, and then once I get a whole tray full, make sure you're labeling, because guaranteed you are going to forget what's in there. Guaranteed. Never fails. And you're going to be mad as a hornet. Okay? So I organize that all ahead of time, get them in all my little bowls that I've got, and I have them on the counter. So doing them in a big batch like this is fabulous, and you can get them all done pretty darn quick. Now, I'm just doing small batches right now. Maybe in another week or two, I'm going to do whole trays of specific ones. Maybe the ones that are more resilient, ones that germinated really well, or ones that I have orders for. So that's what I'm doing. Beans in today. I think I might even have another tutorial on the beans. Even if you just have parts of the beans, beans typically have two lobes, two halves, and they have the potential to grow two plants from one little bean. Not that I want you to go ahead and break them open and do that, but you have the ability to do that. If you have, say, in a seed pack, you only have half of a bean, one of them is like a half, still plant it, because it still might just come up, and you might have some success with that. So there we go. Planting beans, super easy. When you're planting beans, I don't know where your skill level is, but if you're a newbie gardener, do not plant beans outside if there's going to be frost, even a chance of frost. Here in Canada, our basic date that we put things outside, even if you started them inside, is May 24th. May 2-4 weekend, we call it. And that's when you put stuff out. You don't want to take a chance of a frost coming through, because if you do, those little seedlings, they're just going to die on you. You're going to be mad as heck. Keep them inside until then, unless you don't want to start them inside and you want to direct sow. If you want to direct sow, you want to wait until that weekend to get them in the ground. That's just plain and simple. Okay, I'm going to show you one of these beans. This is a French horticultural bean. This, you can see, split in half. There, maybe you can see it a little better. Split in half. So there you can see the two lobes. I don't know if you can see that. It's not focusing for me. There you go. Anyway, you can see that it's split and that there's two halves of this, okay? So if you had to do that, or if you were in a real dire survival situation and you're trying to get numerous plants, you can always resort to breaking them in half and trying to start them that way and getting double the plants. Just saying. It's an option that maybe no one has thought of. Okay, I'm going to get some pumpkins in here as well. I had a couple that I had to get in still. Got some Knucklehead pumpkins. Make sure you check out the seeds in the store. I think those ones are almost sold out. That's why I'm getting these guys in quick. All right. Knucklehead. Those are the ones that they look like they have little warts on the outside. Super cool pumpkin. Fun for Halloween. There we go. And then I just used the little water that I had and water the trays. So basically that's in a nutshell. Soak the beans overnight. You're going to have the most success. It's going to kickstart them. If you don't do that, they're just going to take a little while more time to germinate. You can keep the soil nice and moist and accomplish the same thing, but they'll take a little longer to pop. Soaking them is definitely the way to go. Soaking them even when you're cooking overnight, those dry beans, that's always the way to go, because these are really hard seeds, basically, right? I'm mixing in my last peas that I accidentally had stored with my beans that I didn't know. So I've got some royal snow peas, and they're purple, and they're a particularly cold hardy variety that I'm pretty excited to have in the garden this year. So there we go. Hopefully I can replenish my stock, because those are my last 3 peas. There we go. Beautiful. So what are you guys doing today? Are you guys planting? What are you doing? Here in Canada, we've had some really nice weather over the last week, but now we're starting to get it a little bit cooler at night again. We're dipping below 0 on a couple nights this week. I see ahead in the forecast. So don't be tempted to get things out just because it's sunny and nice for a couple of days. It was actually, heck, it felt like it might have been about 70 degrees the other day outside. Beautiful sunny weather, but don't be tempted. I actually turned the heat off in the greenhouse for, I don't know, 5 days or so. Not even at night did I need it. It was still in the good 60s at nighttime in this greenhouse. Mind you, I designed the greenhouse in such a way that I've got a lot of stone in here, and the rocks, they absorb heat during the day and they'll release it at night. Also, I make sure that I have a lot of bottles of water in here. I don't have my hoses hooked up outside because we don't want to burst the pipes if it freezes. So I'm actually still hauling water out here in bottles, which is a heck of a lot of fun. But it does absorb heat as well, just the same principle, and releases it, radiates it at night, and it keeps the greenhouse a little more tempered. If you're having a cold spell, you want to make sure that you're watering your plants. I like to water deeply when they get dry to the touch on the top, the soil. That way it also helps temper that cold. I notice that the nights that I do the watering, then I replenish the bottles with hot water. I bring them in here and let that heat a little bit better too. But I do see that it helps a lot keeping it warmer. So that all being said, once you plant your beans, any kind of seeds, really, you have to make sure that that soil stays moist. I wouldn't keep it sopping wet. Don't do that. But when you see that it's drying out some, and especially if it's in a greenhouse or a nice hot window, you'll be surprised how quickly that soil will dry on the top. I have stuff in my windowsills in the house, and every single morning I have to soak them. I have a spray bottle that I soak them with. It's my special stuff that I'm keeping inside right now, and they dry out quickly, much more quickly. Here, my top shelves obviously dry out quicker than the bottom shelves, simply because of the sun and the heat going to the top of the greenhouse. So keep things nice and moist. And what you'll have is some gorgeous trays with all labeled and ready to go. What I also like to do on the back most times, right now I'm doing it on my computer. I'm writing down when I'm planting them and when they're sprouting, so that I have a better idea next season of what's the best thing to plant and when. Also, it also helps me gauge whether my seeds are still viable. Sometimes your seeds get older and they're not viable anymore. So writing down the date, especially if you're doing different plantings, or you're not planting all of the same thing at one time, you can keep track of, has that popped? That should have popped. The other one's popped and this one didn't pop based on your dates. So it's a good idea to keep track, especially if you're a newbie, and it'll help you kind of gauge what you're doing. Also, it helps me know what I want to keep for next year. If things are taking too long or they're not really viable anymore, I'm going to pop the other things first. I need those to get going. The other ones, they can sit around for a little longer, and I can, experiment with them after. But you want to make sure that you have your staples in, they're coming up, and they're very healthy and moving along. That's how I see it anyway. I like to do them in batches of all the same thing. So one day I'll come out here, I'll do all my tomatoes. One day I'll come out and I'll do all my peppers. One day I'll come out, I'll do all my pumpkins. And I do it in that way. The beans, I just have a particularly lot of beans, a lot of different varieties that I've been collecting over the years and finding here and there, and doing research online to see that things are a little more cold hardy, or things that maybe produce a little bit better, or maybe a cooler color, something like that. So I've got a lot of varieties. It's just been taking me a lot longer for some reason to get this done. Also, the beans, they take a little bit longer to prepare. You're going to soak them overnight. Same thing with the peas. You want to do the same thing with peas. They take a little bit of soaking, and it just works a little bit better. Anyway, that being said, I'm going to stand up. My knees are killing me in here. All right, so just show you what I've got going on. I've got my new seedling trays on the top. They're all nice and labeled. I've got my mix all in here this year, so they're on the bottom shelves. But my seedlings have to get that sun and that heat. They're all up here, and everything's starting to sprout. I don't know if you can see everything. I've got Heck, what happened? I must have pressed the wrong button. I'm sorry, guys. My goodness. Anyway, that being said, let me show you again. Here's my little seedlings. And I started with my cold hardies first, because they're the ones that are going to come out of this greenhouse first and get into the ground. They can handle a little bit more of that cold weather, whereas tomatoes and peppers and things like that can't. So the greens, kales and spinach and, Swiss chard lettuces, root vegetables, they can deal with that colder weather a lot better than some of these other ones. So that being said, my beans are kind of in the middle. They come up really easily. I could have waited till later because they are kind of vigorous and they'll do well, but I want to make sure that I have a really good crop this year coming so I can save a lot of the seeds and we can eat a lot of them. So I kind of have a feeling we're going to have a warmer summer this year. Last year we had a very warm summer, but it was very dry. So hopefully we get a little more rain this year, but I want to maximize my ability to grow those staple vegetables. But beans, of course, have protein, so they're a good source to keep. Also, you can eat them fresh or you can dry them. And they store very well. Beans can store for years and years and years, as long as you keep them dry and dark. You can either eat them or you can go ahead and plant them subsequent years. So anyway, I don't know. I hope I covered everything about beans that you ever could want to know. I used my basic mixing, my basic soil mix. I did a video on that. I can link that for you. I did a live stream on how to mix the soil and what works best. And yeah, hopefully that helped you if you didn't know how to do beans. They're a good basic crop to start with, good for newbies, but also a serious staple whether you are, what do they call that new thing? Flexitarianism. If you eat some vegetables and you're an omnivore basically. Sometimes you do veg, sometimes you mix in meat. Flexitarian, that's a new term that I used. I wanted to use it. Or if you're a vegetarian, beans are a serious staple. We all know that. I'm planting a wide variety. I'll include some of the my favorites and let you guys go from there. Anyway, be a champion in your greenhouse, in your garden, in your kitchen, wherever you are today. Just be a deckgum champion. All right. Thanks for tuning in. Yeah, I'll cover something else next time, whatever it is that I decide to plant. I think maybe my squashes will be next. So we'll see you soon. All right. Bye. Thanks for tuning in.